Just how should India look at this partnership? For more on that, I'm joined by Sanjay Suri, my colleague, who's tracking this visit of the Prime Minister in Paris. Also, Captain Alok Bansal, Director, India Foundation, is with us. Defence has been a very key element of the Indo-French cooperation. But Sanjay, I want to come to you first up. The Prime Minister is set to meet the President of the Senate. What's the significance of that meeting?
Well, the real significance will come at the last meeting of the day, and that is with President Macron. Prime Minister Modi will go to the Élysée Palace. He'll be received there by President Macron, and this has been described as an official private dinner. It is expected that there are outstanding issues in the Rafale proposed deal with the submarines issue that do need to be ironed out, and they need intervention from the very top, and that is what this dinner meeting will be about. It is only after these matters get ironed out and agreed upon that we could have an announcement. There are very complex issues at stake. The extent to which farming of manufacture can be transferred to India, the extent to which technology can be shared, and above everything else, the cost. France has been very reliable for India. We saw that in the Kargil war. The systems on the Mirage 2000 gave vital information, and then we saw again with the Rafale order itself, there were many further requirements by the Indian Air Force, and the French and the company Dassault in particular met almost all of those requirements, and in good time, of course, at a price. And that will be the principal matter to be discussed between the Prime Minister and the President.
Before I go across to Alok Bansal, Sanjay, one more question. A lot is being talked about the kind of welcome the Prime Minister has been accorded, the French Prime Minister there in person to receive him. What is being said in Paris itself about this?
Well, certainly a very warm welcome and to be cherished and to be pleased about, no doubt. But there's a point beyond which you can't read too much into this sort of thing. There is a lot of ceremony, there is a lot of politeness. People go out of their way sometimes. In diplomatic terms, that protocol itself is an expression of something political. But really, the issue at stake is the defense agreements and the defense purchases, and that's going to be a matter of hard negotiations, hard bargaining, hard cash for India. That may be hard to come by, but clearly India has its needs and France has its needs to sell to India. Exactly what the terms are, that is where the crunch will come.
Okay, Sanjay, I'll come back to you. Let me also go across to Captain Alok Bansal on exactly that issue. How about we to look at this cooperation between India and France when it comes to India's defense needs are concerned? Is it that France truly acknowledges that it needs to do more for India and is acknowledging that, or is India just a market for French defense goods?
See, we need to understand that India and France have had convergence of a relationship for a very, very long time. Because France, despite being a part of the Western alliance, have always pursued a neutral or an independent foreign policy. In fact, Charles de Gaulle, despite being a member of NATO, had actually pulled out its troops out of NATO. So from that time onwards, France has always been appreciative of India's concerns as far as foreign policy issues are concerned. In fact, in '98, if you remember, just after India went nuclear, we did first nuclear tests. The first foreign leader to visit India when India was under sanctions was President Chirac of France. So India and France have had huge convergence. Even in the International Solar Alliance, we have come together. And the biggest defense deal that India actually signed in recent times was the Rafale deal, which we signed with France. And now we are trying to take it further. And in Prime Minister Modi's key program has been Atmanirbhar Bharat. Again, here the self-reliance is primarily in the field of defense. He wants defense production to go up. So he would want that now that this is going to be a second order of Rafale. The first order we had brought certain level of indigenization, certain parts were being manufactured in India, that was being done. Now with this second order, I think we would want that level of indigenization to go up. We would ideally want to set up certain assembly lines in India. That is what I think we will be looking forward to. These defense deals are major deals, France, as it is our second largest defense supplier. We need to understand that. And traditionally, France has never been part of the sanctions lobby, because in the past we have suffered, we in the defense forces have suffered Western sanctions, which have actually had debilitating effect. But France has never been part of it. And that's why France is far more reliable ally. So if we have to diversify, France has been one of our first choices.
No, but when you say far more reliable, you say in context of who others? Because we've seen recently a little bit, people say, a paradigm shift in the Indo-US relationship as well, which used to be much governed by US's interests in Pakistan and Afghanistan. That condition has been almost removed completely. And the kind of welcome and the kind of euphoria we saw with the Prime Minister's US visit, it seems like that there is a new era of Indo-US partnership. So when you say more reliable, in context of whom?
See, we need to be very clear. Indo-US relationship is primarily a manifestation of common values, the common values of democracy and pluralism, and also the rising stature of Indian diaspora.
Right.
India-US relations have improved with the rise of diaspora. Today, Indian diaspora is the #1 diaspora in United States. They are actually more powerful and more prosperous than even the Jewish diaspora, which was often considered to be the most influential one. So that is what brought us together. But in the past, we have seen that the US and the other Western countries have imposed sanctions. We saw what happened after the nuclear tests. There were, again, in the past also, we have had times in late 80s, 90s when we were under severe sanctions, where many of our defense equipment which were procured from the West or which had components from the West could not fly.
Right.
Hopefully such things would not come again. But there is always a possibility of a convergence, because India always cherishes its strategic autonomy. And that strategic autonomy, France has been one of those countries which has always recognized India's strategic autonomy. And that's why you'll find that whenever we had to move away, even during the Cold War era, when our primary source of equipment was Soviet Union, and whenever we had to move away from this to a Western medium, we have gone to France. We went for Mirage, we went now for Rafale. So in the past, we have been going to France from time and again for defense equipment, because France has been an extremely reliable defense supplier and a partner who shared our vision to a very great extent of strategic autonomy.